it its greatest one yet. And Obadiah wasn't talking about the Iron Man suit, he was talking about the arc reactor. I know, it's fiction. I like the movie. I'm sorry. But the arc reactor in Iron Man was a tremendous source of power that enabled them to power the Iron Man suit. And that's why in the second movie, you had Justin Hammer needed Vanko to, maybe a bit esoteric for everybody, but basically the second movie is industrialist brings on a Russian dude who can create the arc reactor. The point is, energy is everything. I will tell you something you won't like to hear, though.
That's the outcome.
But I'll tell you something you're not going to want to hear, and I admit it's I'll call it dickish. Utilitarianism is typically the villain in most movies.
I don't care.
Yeah. So for instance, like Thanos was utilitarian, and Captain America was deontological.
I didn't.
So Thanos willing to reduce the suffering by killing, hundreds of trillions, versus the, thousands of trillions, being better off. So, side comic book movies.
But for anything else, he follows his knee-jerk reaction.
Your history!
And no amount of evidence or critical thinking can convince him to have two thoughts about one subject. So let's start with the video's title, Inside a No-Go Zone in Malmo, Sweden. Oh boy, right off the bat, huh? Okay, so according to the police in Malmo, there are no no-go zones. They refer to some areas as problem areas because poverty in those areas leads to increased crime. The term no-go zone was applied to these areas by a journalist misquoting the police. So when the police themselves are telling you that they're overstating the danger posed by crime in an area, the police, whose jobs and funding rely on the existence of crime in their jurisdiction, may I remind you, that ought to be a red flag.
I'm not giving up yet!
Didn't realize that. Maybe he was just being flippant with the term, he heard it used somewhere. He thought, the thing people say, it doesn't actually mean anything. Oh, what's that in your description there, Tim?
Pay for
First,
this!
it is important to know that there aren't any official no-go zones. This is a term used colloquially by many people, but not most. And it certainly isn't official. Police refer to many areas as problem areas, and Rosengard is one of them. So you knew you were being sensational. You chose to hide that information in the description of your video, rather than in the video itself. I can tell you for a fact that nobody reads the description because the information I have listed in the description of my video. And just for the record, there is a difference between an area with a lot of crime and a no-go zone. A no-go zone is somewhere where you can't go, because it's unsafe. An area with a little bit more crime has a little bit more crime. But notice the weasel words in this phrasing. This is a term used colloquially by many people, but not most. This is one of Tim's very favorite rhetorical devices. Oh, this isn't something I'm saying or I'm asserting. It's just something a group of unnamed people somewhere are saying.
We'll be very liberal, some people say centrist. People have asked that we go to Rummelsbach. Someone is that very, very great welfare benefit.
Ion. Electrified. Hanguk tire.
Here's where we make sure our Blue Bunny Soft is super soft. Oh, Phil! So soft. Music to my ears. Blue Bunny, we make fun.
Some people told us that you were a liberal in Sweden, and we've gotten different numbers from different people.
I'm looking at, I think it was 11.
11? What's that, 14, 13? But I'll say we can settle on 11. People have said that there is in sexual crime. We've been told that it's simply because Sweden has a wider law. But there are people saying that it coming, not even specifying where to go to. If you're just going Rosengard, it's so there's a lot of people who say that you'll get robbed here, that there's crimes or anything like that. That's not the case. That's something we haven't heard from people in Malmo. They kind of wave it off like it's no big deal. In the past 2 months, there were 4 murders, some people said 3.
That's a way of lending credibility to a statement without saying anything that can be fact-checked or challenged. How are you going to prove that people aren't saying something? I can do that too. Lots of people are telling me Tim Tool is an embarrassment to journalism. I've heard people talking about how Tim Tool is very clearly trying to push a conservative social agenda through his dishonest reporting. We've heard reports that Tim Tool's beanie conceals a Chrck embedded in his head that gives him orders. These types of statements don't meet the editorial standards of a Wikipedia article, let alone serious journalism. Speaking of bad journalism, this video begins with a leading question.
So do you think that there's been more violent crime?
At the last 2 years, maybe.
Do you think that has anything to do with refugees?
Yeah.
Just so you know, just so you don't come away with the wrong idea and assume this is going to be some sort of neutral, fact-based reporting. Nope! We got to let you know, first and foremost, right away, we are explicitly creating a narrative. Crime here is because of refugees. This lady thinks so there you go. Tim fucks around for a little bit, then meets up with Nils, the deputy mayor of Malmö. Right off the bat, he poisons the well. Just so you know, we've been told, stinko, stinko.
We're on our way to meet Nils Carlson, who's a deputy mayor. We're told he's very liberal. Some people say he's centrist.
He calls this his official minder tour. Ha ha ha. Just kidding, I'm being facetious. Because it's the official view of the government, you know, because you're talking to the deputy mayor, the mouthpiece of the totalitarian Swedish. He's obviously going to be led around the nose and shown only what the government wants him to see. Except, you know, he tells Carlson where he wants to go. Yeah, okay. We worked so hard to let you know ahead of time. Don't listen to what this guy said. I wonder why that might be.
But the real violent crimes have increased, while the other crimes have been at a more stable level or even decreased. So there is a problem in Malmö.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it has anything to do with Sweden bringing in refugees?
No, I don't.
Carlson doesn't think crime has anything to do with Sweden bringing in refugees? Weird. Weird, isn't it? That he chose to start the video with the lady saying she does think it has something to do with refugees, but the actual subject of the interview, the guy he is explicitly there to talk to, says no, and doesn't make the opening stinger for some reason? That's weird, isn't it? And I just want to note this exchange because it kind of gives the game away a little bit.
But I find it's much more useful to talk about the problems if you want to solve them. Because if you cover them up or try to win, then they'll
Yeah, that's what a lot of conservatives have said in the US, that simply acting like a problem will fix them.
Well, that is true. I'll give them that.
Liberals are always saying we should just ignore our problems, and conservatives are like, no, they won't go away if we do that. Except climate change and children in cages and the rainforest burning and police brutality and mass incarceration, racial profiling, increases in hate crimes, and all of the crimes done by the crime president and any sexual assaults anyone he appoints to office might do. Other than that though, no, we can't ignore our problems. Unlike liberals who want to ignore the no-go areas in Malmö, Sweden, just because they don't exist. Typical. One thing that strikes me about Tim Tool's interview with Carlson is that Carlson never actually denies the refugees committing crimes. He talks about the socioeconomic status of refugees in Sweden, the language barrier, and how that might incentivize them to commit more crimes. Because, you know, refugees are people, and sometimes people commit crimes. He places the blame for Malmö's escalating violent crime rate on gangs, because that's what the police told him, apparently. The minute Carlson is out of the room, though, Tim Tool claims that Carlson admitted he was biased. He admitted it himself, and it was obvious anyway because he's very liberal.
You know, Nils, he said he's biased, and you know that that's a very liberal perspective, so take that into account. We've got more interviews to do, we've got more experts to meet, and this is a daily thing, so, you know, expect more.
Now, I've watched this video a few times, and he didn't call himself biased. I don't know if maybe he did that
Your history!
with Tim Tool, but if he did, it's not in the video. So by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does seem to suggest that Carlson saying he is a liberal itself is an admission of bias in Tim Tool. Now, I'm not a liberal. I tend to disagree with liberals quite heavily, but I wouldn't exactly call liberalism a bias. It's a perspective, but it's kind of irresponsible to just categorically dismiss anyone because they disagree with you politically. And I guess this is the point where we have to talk about this. Tim Tool identifies as a liberal. That's not true.
I'll
That's
be
a grip
seeing
to
you.
make himself seem neutral when he criticizes liberals. And if you fall
What?
for it, you're kind of...
I'm not giving up yet!
In this video, he name drops American conservatives as the only ones willing to combat societal problems and openly dismisses the point of view of who seems too liberal. Just take a look at the video on his YouTube channel.
You pay for this!
Bends the knee to the leftist outrage mob. The right faces massive cultural disadvantage. The left is trapped in a paranoid delusion state, and it's getting worse. Impeachment hearing backfires on Democrats, potentially proving Trump right. Even CNN notes problems. This is essentially the same grift that wieners like Sargon or Dave Rubin tried to pull. They only ever criticize the left, or what they consider left, and what I might consider to be, but claim to be on the left, you know, so you can trust them because they're on the other team. That's where their sympathies lie, obviously. So you can trust their criticism because it works against their biases, actually. You know, that makes perfect sense if you view politics as a team sport. I might agree with everything you say, but I'm on the other team, so naturally, that's what I want to believe, and I would love to agree with them. It's just that everything you're saying makes so much sense that I am forced against my will to agree with you. That's not how politics works. You're on whatever side you agree with. Have some fucking sense. Anyway, back to making fun of the video. Just so you know, Malmo is experiencing an unprecedented crime wave. Tim mentions he himself witnessed a crime.
The interesting thing is when we first came to this spot, the people here told us they had just experienced some kind of crime and the police were on their way. But we're told it wasn't a priority. They asked us not to speak about it, but at least I'd like to bring it up to let you know that this is the area we're in and this is what we experienced.
A crime? That could be anything. An assault, a murder, perhaps some sort of elaborate, sexy jewel heist. But probably not, though, because if the type of crime was interesting or scary, he'd probably mention that. Probably like graffiti or loitering or a noise complaint or some shit like that. Because the police say it's not a high priority. The purpose of this video is to scaremonger about refugees committing crimes. The first 10 seconds of the video make that clear. If there was something scary happening, he'd say so. But he just calls it a crime, doesn't say what it is.